Swim check 1, 2. Bike check 1, 2. Run check 1, 2. I think we're ready. Let's try this. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, a podcast where we explore the sport of triathlon from a variety of perspectives to help beginner triathletes on their journey. I am your host, Mashonda Shines. Well, welcome back to another edition of Try Beginner's Luck. Today is First Timer Day, so I get to introduce a first timer and a not so first timer, but they are a power couple. At least in my eyes, they are. Now, we've been talking a lot this season about rest and recovery. As we know, we have to be able to rest and recover in order to produce even better and show up in a different way. So, of course, I'm going to bring on a beginner and talk about a little bit of that, and we'll see where the conversation goes. But let me tell you a little bit about our guest. So, I know this young lady because our teammates. It's complicated. Don't worry about it. But she is a member of Grit, and we often swim together at our local gym when either I can make it or vice versa. But she is absolutely one of the nicest, most supportive people you will ever meet. And she is thoughtful, is caring, and it's always about community. And that's something that I like. Like, even when I fall off the bandwagon, she's like, so are you going to come to this? Okay, well, no worries. I'm just going to keep inviting you back. And I am so appreciative of that because, you know, we go through our seasons of high moments and low moments, and you need people who are going to always check in and make sure that you are around. So I'm very grateful for her. But because she's trying, it caused her boyfriend to want to try. Bam! You guys know how I feel about that. It's like, this sport is addictive. And once you're around it for long enough, you're going to want to tap your toes in it. And that's exactly what happened. So I am really excited and honored. Patrick, I don't know as much because he's quiet and he looks at me sometimes and be like, this girl is crazy. Logo. No, not really. He doesn't do that. But I am just always really excited to see him because he's so supportive and been supportive of Fer. Well, I've already said their name, so I've messed that part up. However, through that support, he wanted to try. And we're going to find out all the backstory. So with that said, I have the esteemed honor and pleasure of bringing to the Try Beginner's Luck podcast, Fer, Ruiz and Patrick McHenry. Welcome to the Try Beginner's Luck family or podcast. How y'all doing?
Hi.
Hi, Michelle.
Hello. I'm so excited to have y'all. I've seen you a couple of times, Patrick, but when I saw the Instagram post that said you had completed your first triathlon at Kinetic Multisports Waterman's, I said, this is a no-brainer because I've seen you at the races supporting Fer. I've seen you, and you come from a running background, but to see you test the limits and try beginner's luck, you know that was chef's kiss for me. So welcome, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us. Yeah.
Of course. So let's get right into it. Fer, you've been in the triathlon space since I think it was 2021.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about how you came into sport.
So, I started triathlon during COVID time, as many I took up on a hobby, and I was already curious about triathlon and had been interested for a while because some of my cousins were into it, and I already run and swim sometimes. So I was just curious about it. But at that time, I was working, doing my master's, and it just didn't work out. And during COVID time, I ended up having more time and also had the opportunity to work remotely from Mexico, which was great after being here for so many years. And so I started going out on bike rides and running with my cousins. And that got me thinking if I can do a long ride, maybe I can do a sprint triathlon. Like, I think I can do it. And so we signed up for a race that summer together. And I came back here, started training, but we met again in Mexico in Tulum to do my first triathlon. And it was just like a great experience overall, especially because I was able to share with my cousins. And so that made it very, very special for me. And so that first year, I trained by myself, and it was fun. But then at some point, it got a little bit kind of like lonely and boring. And I don't know if you know Darian. He used to be on Grit as well. So Darian, I had met him through DC Run Crew, and he was like, "Hey, you should like join Grit." And anyway, so he encouraged me, and I joined Grit in I think at the end of 2021 or something like that, and it's been great.
I love that. And shout out to Darian for encouraging you. Um, but Tulum is your first try. That's very exotic and nice and oceany
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
amazing.
I think I was like so like focused on making sure that I was able to complete the race that I didn't even think about like it's open water swim in the ocean, but it was fun. It was great. It was great. Just the bike was like that was my challenging piece.
Okay. So you're doing triathlons. I'm going to get some backstory because we got to see how long Patrick's been supporting this habit. So, how long have you and Patrick been dating?
Roughly a year. Yeah, so we started dating last fall.
Mm.
Um,
Because I saw you at Waterman's last year and then age group nationals. Okay. And you went right into full like support mode, which I absolutely love.
mhm. But when we started, it was the winter time, which I think even Fer would admit is kind of her down season as far as training. So
Okay.
I was a little surprised when the spring came around and, she was working out almost 7 days a week, had a triathlon coach, like sort of flipped a switch and then all the races started. And yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Yeah. But also when we started dating, I think I told you about the rock and roll half marathon
Hmm.
because he's a runner, that's his background. And so like, hey, like you should join. And you were like, no, I'm done racing. I'm gonna do it. And so he was like, but I'll support you and it's fine. And one thing I really appreciate is that like to Pat's point, last winter also it was not only was the like, down season, but also I had come from I was still recovering from my hand. And I remember I had my surgery. So I was
Mhm.
completely like, not in shape. And getting back into running for that half marathon, it really helped me that sometimes like, you don't want to get out and it's cold. And also I'm not from cold weather. Like I'm from Mexico. So like sometimes Pat would be like, okay, like I'll run with you halfway of the distance and then I'll catch the metro, like just to get me out of the door. And that was really, really helpful. And also because he's faster than me. So like that also kept me at a pace and really pushed me to like to be able to get back into the training mode.
So you don't even have to run, Patrick. You're not even interested in racing, period. And yet you would run half the distance and ride the metro home. I'm here for that. That's that's what's up.
Yeah, I mean, it's good so I never did a triathlon before, but I have a history with running, obviously, racing, and then swimming and biking too. So I like to do them all individually. So it was helpful for me to get out the door and keep running. I'm much less competitive now than I was, but I still and I get injured a lot when I run too much. So I'm cautious about overdoing it, but to run a few times a week with Fair was great for me too.
So speaking of this, used to be more competitive. Let's talk about that. It's because you went to school to do track and field. So tell us about that journey of being competitive with track and field and it being a natural progression for you just to be a nice, good at running.
Yeah, sure. I mean, I started running competitively when I was 8 years old. And so I kind of, my running career ended early. It started early and ended early. I ran a marathon at 15, I ran in high school. I ran in college, for part of college at two different schools. And then, like I said, I started getting injured a lot. And I did one last marathon when I was 22. And that was almost 20 years ago now. But then for most of my 20s and 30s, I actually switched to a lot of yoga to try to like fix myself a little bit. And now I can run again without too much difficulty. Um, but that was my running journey. Yeah,
Interesting. So you switched to yoga, which is a form of recovery.
exactly.
It's a form of like, getting your muscles back nimble and pliable. And that is really cool. So, it seems like you were a long distance runner when you were running competitively.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So, how has the transition been to now that you're running again, keeping it short, but probably high intensity because you're doing shorter distances, right?
Yeah, a little bit of everything. Fair likes to do interval training a lot. So we'll do those, a lot of like kilometer repeats,
Mhm.
things like that. Sometimes it's just a 5 mile jog, just to get it in.
Just a 5 mile jog. So
Yeah,
casual.
yeah, yeah.
I
I
love it.
mean, if you're only
Five
going to
miles
go,
is not a nice jog for me. I'm like,
yeah.
5 miles. Ah, help me.
Oh,
But I love
oh,
it.
oh, yeah. Um,
So, yeah. Okay. So you're a runner. You
mhm.
run with fur. You, you're kind of like the igniter. So tell me, Patrick, when did this light bulb go off for you to want to even try beginner's luck per se?
Um, it was Waterman's. Well, what is it called in the springtime?
Um,
Rock Hall.
It-
Rockhold,
Rock
yes.
Hall.
Mhm.
Yeah, so we went to Rock Hall together, and I was kind of the Sherpa or caddy, whatever you call it, the support staff. So I had the dog and the bike, and was helping her get set up for that race in the spring, and it just looked like such a perfect place for a triathlon. Like really safe, really inviting. Like even the water there looked completely harmless. Like um, it's just a nice little community and a small race, really well organized race. So I was like, you know what, this looks like fun. I'm gonna give it a shot.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah. And at that point, you were also like swimming a lot.
yeah. I do swim
Hmm.
more than anything these days,
Mm.
which
Yeah.
helps with the injuries, I think.
Yeah. The most difficult was like to get your bike.
Yeah, she had
Yeah.
to she had to kind of nudge me a few times to get my bike fixed because I've had this bike for a long time, but I haven't ridden it in a few years. So,
Hmm.
she had me, take the bike in and get it road ready. Um, and then of course the first couple training rides, I still wound up with flats on like two of my first rides, um, for whatever reason. So it's good to get some of that out of the way before race day.
I love it. So, Fur,
Hmm.
were you the trainer and coach?
No.
So you
No.
didn't help Patrick at all with this like transition. You're just like, okay, I'm gonna send you on to someone else and you'll
No,
figure
no,
out
no,
with
no,
me that
no.
race day.
Like we did talk about transition, but like I laugh because we have very different approaches to like
Oh,
training.
okay.
And I think part of it is because we have had very different journeys,
Mhm.
right?
Hmm.
Like I didn't get into triathlon until like, later on in life and even running because I injured my hip when I was 15 and I was told that I couldn't run. So I didn't run until I was like 30, maybe, when another doctor told me, no, yeah, you can, but we just need to do like certain exercises and so like I got into like running and just like that type of sports very late on. And the coach that I have, I love working with her. like we know each other from Mexico for many years ago. And when I decided to do my first triathlon, I reached out to her and asked her if she would like coach me. And it's been great because we're friends already. We like, we're always in communication. And I feel like she's very like adaptive to what I need and like pushes me and stuff. And so for me, it has worked great. And I'm someone who like, I want someone to tell me, here's your plan, and that's what I'm going to be doing. Like, I don't want to be like making much decisions or thinking. Like, I feel like I already do that at work. And so when it's time to do like the triathlon, I just want to enjoy it. Right. And like, use it for that. And I feel like Pat, like you had different experience with like coaches and training and having like a structure like training, and you'd rather like go more with like how you feel.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that's part of being 41 for me, I think, is having to listen to my body and do what I feel like I need that day, and not overscheduling. So um, it works out well though.
Mm-hmm.
So do you schedule your own workouts? Did you pretty much self-coach yourself through the first one, like find a training plan online and say, okay, this is how I'm going to do it. And depending on how I wake up, this is what I'll do?
Not really, because it was a sprint that I did. So a 5K run, I mean, it's fairly manageable for me. I swim probably twice a week, and a decent amount each time. So I didn't feel like my goal was really only to finish and have fun. So if I could get in like 2 runs a week and maybe one bike ride a week and maybe one swim a week, and then I would have to also do like a general like mobility type day in the gym, and then maybe like a leg strength training day. Like that was pretty much my training plan.
Like 3 bike rides.
Oh yeah, 3 bike rides.
But you sort of self-coached yourself.
Yeah, yeah.
I love that. I love the approach and how you're like, nah, we might be together, but we don't train together in that aspect of going with the same plans. And I think that's okay. And it's good for people to know, like, what works for you is for you, and what works for the other person is for them. And
Yeah.
respecting those differences, but yet still being able to come together and do a run or two together and be okay with it versus like having to always do things together, which is really cool.
Yeah.
But I
Oh,
find
yeah.
it so admirable. But go ahead, Fer.
No, yeah, I was like totally, because I feel like when we were either like I was training for the half marathon or we were going for swims, like we would like go together, but like each one is doing their own thing, and so it worked out. And I feel like with the triathlon, we tried once to do like a break on a Saturday, and like Pat was just like not in a good mood that day, and he's not like that. He's always like very happy. I'm the one who is usually complaining more. So I was like, this is not working out. Like, what's happening? He was like, I don't do well with like structured things. And I was like, fine, that's great. Like you listen to your body and do what makes you happy. But like this makes me happy. So I'm going to be doing my structured training. And it worked out because we were able to like still do things, or like, I feel.
Yeah, Saturdays we could do the bike or whatever we needed. During the week was harder.
Yeah. And then there's another girl who like did her first triathlon and also on Waterman's. And so, well, even though like we were not necessarily like training together or like doing the same thing, like there was this other friend who did her first triathlon and some other girl who was also like doing triathlon. She had done one in the past, but like it had been years. So we got together, the 4 of us, for dinner, and like we just talked about like, well, this is a transition, and this is like, what do you want to have for nutrition? And I still like give you my nutrition plan, and then you took what you wanted from it.
Oh, the race day nutrition plan?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I just took like a couple packets of gel, I think.
Yeah.
That's all you really need for a sprint. Yeah.
So I love how you were like the mentor of the group and just kind of spearheading the efforts and letting them know what to expect. Here's what you need. Here are some of the things that you need to do.
Yeah.
So my question for you, Patrick, was, did you find anything that happened during the race that you weren't prepared for?
Maybe starting with like the morning of the race, like the prep work, like the first time it was one of us racing and one of us kind of supporting. So, getting there on time, having everything we needed, getting set up on time was like easy. But then with both of us racing, triathlon is just way more logistically complicated than I'm used to. So having like the two bikes and two sets of gear, two stations to set up, two sets of needs in the morning for, food, drink, what have you. Um, we wound up kind of a little bit more hurried than I would have liked to have been for my first triathlon.
He's like, I needed to kind of ease into it. I'm learning your flow. You're kind of like, I'm relaxed. I need time. I need to plan. So you're a planner and you want to be there early, but on your own time. I love this. I love it.
I was all chill until like, the guy well, I saw you doing that at Atlantic City, on the microphone. And we got there and then like maybe 10 minutes later, the guy's like kicking us out of the transition, like telling us to go to the swim. And at that point, I just had to go into like a different mode to like get ready as fast as possible.
What mode was this? Come on, tell us. What kind of mode? Was it beast mode?
I mean, it was just like no more talking mode. Like it's time to go. Like we were both, we both had to kind of move quick, so
Yeah.
there wasn't much time for tips at that point.
I love it. And sometimes that's kind of good because it doesn't give you much time to think, right?
True. Yeah.
And too much time to think can be like, what's happening? But no, I love this. This is classic. Everybody's first time is different. We all have a first time. No one gets in this sport without having a first time, which is why I love highlighting first timers, because we all have a story. And it challenges us in such a different way. And each person has a different challenge. Even if it was a similar experience, it was a different challenge. And hearing you say how you had to go into this mode, it was like, no more talking. I got to get right, get my mind right, and go. That to me is just like, I love this sport so much. So let's talk about both of your races. I want you to tell me about your swim. Like, what was the swim like for both of you, your very first races?
Oh, your first, okay, first.
Both. Race. So I'm giving you time for both of you to tell your first time stories I'm a slow walkers. We're starting with the swim.
All right. So my first sprint, like the water was a little bit choppy, and they actually, I think, had to like change the course or something because of the currents and because it was choppy. But like I was like just so like focused on like you need to finish that I didn't think much of it. Also like it took me a couple of triathlons to be able to do just freestyle the whole way because I feel very comfortable doing like breaststroke and I'm fast in a breaststroke swim. So it's really not like much of a difference if I do breaststroke or freestyle. And like I just ended up like doing breaststroke instead of like doing freestyle the whole like triathlon. So it was fun. It was fun, but like I feel like it was just more like, laser focus on like completing and going in thinking with a plan that you're going to do in freestyle. And I ended up just like, going into like my comfort zone and what I feel like safe and in control. And it worked out, I feel.
Better than the most recent.
Yeah.
Probably.
Because at Waterman, like I went into the water, and when I'm trying to see for the buoy, like I saw the one like on the side, and I just started like swimming, like in that direction. So like a kayak had to go get me, and like they were like, "Hey, are you starting? Like you're supposed to go that way."
So you even though you're doing breaststroke, sometimes you don't sight.
Now I do freestyle and I sight.
Mm-hmm.
So like that, the race that Pat is saying with Waterman, I just like saw a different buoy. Instead of seeing the one that was in front of me, I saw one that was like on the side. Like, so I just started swimming in that direction. If that had been the way, it would have been like a really good swim. But, it was just like a different direction.
Okay. Patrick?
Um, yeah, the swim was much better than I thought. That's probably the main reason why I didn't do a triathlon before now.
Hmm.
Because of just being worried about being in the open water with a bunch of people and getting kicked and all this. But there really wasn't that concern at Rock Hall. You go in the water like two at a time, and I think it was 750 meters. So you just kind of making two left turns basically, kind of
Hmm.
out, and then so just kind of jumping in, like looking for the buoy. When you look for the buoy, you kind of also see if anybody's right in front of you, so you can kind of get around them if you need to.
Hmm.
When people pass you, you don't really even notice it. I felt I did get off course a little bit at one point toward the end. I kind of started doing another lap instead of kind of going in toward the finish. But it felt good. I mean, it was tiring. It was definitely different than lap swimming in the pool. I felt like there was no opportunity to take a break. But it was a great beginner swim. I mean, the water is calm, great temperature. Uh,
Definitely no time to take a break in open water.
no, no.
Unless you're on the kayaks or something like that. So was Waterman's your first open water swim? Or had you
Maybe.
done
I
some
mean,
practice open water swims?
we did a tiny bit of practice on a lake once, but yeah, that was probably the most significant open water swimming I've done.
Hmm.
Um, but no, I had good goggles and didn't need a wetsuit.
Okay.
Kind of, just kind of keep swimming until, and then it's over before you know it.
And so how was T1 for you?
It was if I can remember. You have to run a little bit there, and then I guess I remember it taking a little bit longer because I was just like wet, like trying to put on socks and a shirt when you're
Mhm.
wet is not something I practiced. So that took a bit of time. Um, I think, yeah, otherwise I just kind of threw my stuff on and got out of there. It took like 2.5 minutes, maybe closer to 3 minutes. Um, yeah, maybe I could have practiced it, but I mean, and then yeah, it's not a big place, so I didn't lose my bike or anything. Like I've been hanging out with Fer and all these a lot of grid athletes over the past few months, and so I hear all these stories about I lost a couple minutes because I couldn't find my bike or things like that. So I kind of had some hints about what to be aware of.
And I'm just going to pause for 1 second.
Okay.
Is it fair or fur?
Fair.
Fair. Fair?
I say fair. I say fair, Fair, but I get yeah,
Fair.
fair, yeah.
Uh-huh.
There is a
Like
little rolled R there, a little
like
bit.
Fernanda.
Hmm.
But I'm saying fur, like Fernanda, fur. Fur.
Fernanda.
Uh-huh.
Am I adding a syllable or something?
I think, sorry, the vocals are like different in Spanish and in English. So like oftentimes in English, like English speakers will say fur, like more instead of fer,
Fur.
like it goes down fer. Uh-huh.
Fur.
But like I don't notice it.
Oh, okay. 'Cause I'm
I
like,
think you know
is
that
it
you
Yeah.
but maybe I won't take this part out, right? Because I'm like, am I saying it wrong? But I say athlete and triathlete. So okay. All right. Just wanted to pause and ask that. So we're talking about T1. Tell us about your T1, your first T1.
my T1, the first one, it was actually like sorry, I have the cough drop.
No worries.
That first race, like you finish in the ocean and you have to like swim like a kilometer to your transition.
Mm,
So that was like longer than, I was expecting. Usually it's not that long that you have to run to your transition. But it was really cool because as I got out, and I think my cousins at that point had already gone into the water. They were doing a like half Ironman distance, but two of my best friends had come to cheer me for that race, and so like they were right there at the beach and like just cheering cheering on me was really, really cool, like to see them. And it just motivates you and encourages you when you see like people that you love. And then I got to my transition and I really don't remember. Like it was like I know that it was far away, but I can't remember my actual transition.
Mm. Okay.
But I guess it worked out because I got out on the bike and
made it happen. So let's go on to the bike.
For me, the bike, it was like the most challenging piece because when I was borrowing a bike from my cousin, one of my cousins, like they were really nice to bring me a bike so that I wouldn't have to like when I hadn't bought a bike at that point, but also like a road bike, and to travel like from here to Tulum was more complicated, and they were able to just send them like with their bikes on a transport company. So it was a lot easier. But it was a bike that I hadn't really used or trained on. And like it fit me, but I wasn't like necessarily used to the bike. And Tulum, like that race, it was like a flat race, which is nice usually because you can keep, your pace. And it wasn't really windy that I remember, but like I just felt I was going so slow. Like everybody was just like passing me and passing me. And it was just like I felt I was going through butter. And I remember like there was so many uh advertisement for like a club that every so often, maybe every like 2-3 kilometers, I would see another of those signs, and I was like, God, please, like this is the most boring piece of this race. Because I just felt like I was looking at the same, and everybody was passing me. I was going so slow. So I was very happy like to get out of the bike. Like now I think I've improved a lot on the bike and I enjoy it. But that first race, it was just like I just couldn't wait to get off the bike, really.
And Patrick or Pat?
Yeah, the bike for me was challenging. I think it probably was less than an hour, but there was a wind. There was a strong headwind the whole first half in Rock Hall that day. And like I mentioned, like I really didn't train that much on the bike. I really just got my bike in working order and rode it a few times. And if I had it to do over again, I probably would have liked a lot more in training, just because I got uncomfortable, even though like cardiovascularly I might have been okay. Like being in that position and having to stay low, and it just starts to burn and gets uncomfortable. But where we live is it's tough to bike in the part of DC that I live in. So anytime I want to bike, you're usually driving the car somewhere, and it takes a while to do a bike ride. So yeah, room for improvement.
I know a lot about those headwinds.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, those headwinds and crosswinds are no joke, but then you get a nice little tailwind when you're coming back in. So that usually is like the trade-off. T2, that was a breeze for both of you. Oh, that kind of rhymed.
Oh, that was good.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm a cornball. Don't worry. I'm certified cornball, but okay.
For T2, like on my first race, I just kept it very simple, and I had like practice a few times based on my plan. And at the beginning, I wasn't using socks to like in the whole race, because with the whole idea, like it saves you time. So like that was the first time that I tried like the sneakers with Vaseline and no socks, and it worked out. Like now I use socks. I don't really think like it saves me that much time, and I don't want to ruin my tennis shoes. But like it was just like easy putting on no, I already had my sneakers because I wasn't clipping at that point. So like I did the race on my sneakers, the whole bike thing. So it was just like leaving the bike, and your helmet, getting my cap, and getting out of into the run. So that one was very easy because I was not clipping at that point.
Excuse me. And Patrick, for you?
Oh yeah. I was relieved to get into T2, and it was pretty quick. You just roll in there, run the bike. change shoes, and then it was for me, it was back to my comfort zone of running. Even though it kind of hurt more than, or in a different way than running has before. So that was an adjustment, but
It's
the
that
running,
brick.
a little brick feeling, yeah. Didn't practice that enough either.
I don't know if the break feeling ever stops.
Yeah.
I feel it does.
You think so?
Yeah, I mean, because for me, what has worked is like on Wednesdays when we do the break at Haynes Point, like I don't do a long ride and then a run. Like I do like every week changes, but let's say that I'll do one loop and then 1 kilometer and then one loop and 1 kilometer. So I'm like constantly changing from bike to running. And I feel like that helps a lot. And Saturdays,
Oh,
usually I would do like a long ride and then I'll do like some sprints or run or whatever. But I feel like doing it so much, it has helped.
so you're saying you do a loop, then you run, do a loop, and then you run. So you don't just do the ride and then run. You switch it up. That's an
Yeah.
interesting philosophy. Is that something that your coach told you to do? Or okay, wow.
Yeah,
And
she
did she
asked.
say the why behind it? Okay, go ahead.
No, I like it. No, maybe like I don't ask much questions. I just see the plan and I'm like, okay, like it works. It makes sense. I mean, so far we've gotten like good results from the things that she has tried at different times. And so, and every week it changes. Sometimes I have to ride 10 kilometers and then I run, let's say, like 2 kilometers. And sometimes it's like 5 kilometers. No, sorry, like 10 kilometers ride, like just no, yeah, one loop, and then 1.5 kilometer run. So like it changes every week how much I have to do. Um, but I think that might also have helped. I don't know. That's my theory.
I love it. That's pretty good. Man, so Patrick, for you, what was the best part of your first try?
Um, I guess just hanging out with everybody after the race, after everyone had finished. Everyone was really happy. Some people, got some awards, and we had a meal together, and yeah, I haven't been around the triathlon community much until this past year, and I guess I didn't think much about what it'd be like, but I've been really happy to see how supportive and nice everybody is, and welcoming of other people. Far's constantly running into people she knows from this race or that race, and it's a really welcoming environment.
Mhm.
And for you, Fitter?
In my first race.
No. I was going to ask you a different question. I was just
Oh,
making sure because we had a little
uh-huh.
sidebar conversation about like my Southern pronunciation and Patrick's pronunciation. We're like, okay. And then, so all that. What would you tell your first time self now that you've been in sport for a little bit?
Mm, to get into a club.
Hmm.
Like to get into like a group or a club, because I think for me that has made a huge difference, because like I've learned a lot, like through my peers and like through my teammates. Like if I have a question, like sometimes depending what it is, like I might post it on Discord and somebody might give me the answer, or I might know who to go to, right? Like if you have a question about bikes, Drew, right? Well, and I think like that has made a huge difference and also has kept me more motivated. Um, and training with other people, like, you get sometimes someone who is going to able to push you to go harder, or sometimes like today, like I was meeting with like two friends for a bike ride with JB, and like we see another friend. And if I hadn't like that, like just getting out of the house, like, in the cold is like more challenging. So I feel like for me, it has helped a lot to have a community just to keep motivated and like to keep learning and being challenged.
Okay, I love that. So y'all are gonna keep Wednesdays going during the wintertime?
Sorry,
You,
Wednesdays?
you guys are gonna keep Wednesdays going during the wintertime?
Yeah, at least for now, we're not doing breaks, but we're doing like social rides. So like we'll just go like and do a few loops while we're talking and maybe go for coffee after.
Now that's my kind of ride. I'll join y'all someday. Okay. Um, Patrick,
Mhm.
will you do another triathlon?
I think I will. I think I will. I might stick with the sprints for now because it was challenging enough, and
I like it.
I just don't see myself ramping up my training enough to do the Olympic one quite yet. But yeah,
And
let's see.
nothing's wrong with that.
Yeah.
And what I love about what you do, Fer, is that you specialize in sprint.
Yeah, that's what I like. Yeah.
Yeah. And so what was your reasoning for specializing in sprint?
Um, like similar to Pat, I just feel like they're challenging. Like they're a good workout, right? And
Mm-hmm.
you have to stay in shape and like, you can see improvements, but it doesn't take over your life. And so I really like that it has like a very like good life balance. And like my job is also demanding. That allows me to have like a balance between work, my training, like my dog, my friends, Pat. My personal life, I feel like has to be priority, and triathlon like makes me happy and gives me a lot of like balance. But like, I don't have necessarily like the time to like do longer.
Yeah, and you don't have to. And I think that's the point I wanted to make. So for those of you who are listening, if you want to just do sprints, do sprints. Do what makes you happy. If you want to continue to go on, you can, but you don't have to. And there's no one stating that if you don't do everyone, then you're not a triathlete. That's a lie. And we don't do that here. So do what you want, do what you feel, do what you love, do what you are going to have fun. And that's going to keep you in the game longer.
Oh, totally, totally. I mean, I've done a few Olympics and I like them. I have fun, but for sure, like the sprints are the ones that like, yeah, I think they're much more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And speaking of fun, you've had the opportunity to qualify for age group nationals, and you just started in 2021, and you've gone to three age group nationals or
Two.
two. You've gone
Mhm.
to two. You went to Milwaukee and then Atlantic City. Tell us about that experience.
So that was also really fun. And I think like um it motivates you to like want to do better, right? Or at least for me, like it gave me like a really good motivation to like, well, if I'm gonna go to nationals, then now I need to actually like train and do like good, right? I don't want to be the last one, which will be totally fine too.
Yeah.
But I feel like it did put a little more pressure. And last year for Milwaukee, I had a great, great time. Like I think we had a really good group and meeting other people, and it was just fun because you get to see like sprints are usually on Sunday, so Saturday like getting to see my other teammates and being there for them and cheering, and it just gets you excited, but you also get to see the course. um and then racing on Sunday, like then it's the opposite, right? Like you get to see your teammates along the course and like they're
Mm-hmm.
cheering for you. And I just found it really, really cool in that sense. Like the community again piece that you get to see there. Seeing, I think one thing that motivated me for sure is that I don't see yet that many people that are Latino in this space here, at least here in the US. If I go to Mexico, we're all Latino, right? And like there's more similarities for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But like being in age group nationals and all of a sudden, like probably you're like one or like the second only people, or like there's one or two people of color in your entire like wave, right? And so like that's also like kind of like cool to be able to try to motivate other people. Like I saw there's, for example, in New York, there's a Tri-Latin or some, I think that's the name of the
Mm-hmm.
team. And it was really cool to see more people, that were speaking Spanish and that they had like their team and like you celebrate different. And I don't know, it was just like fun. And so like for me, that has been like the cool part of being at nationals and just having that extra challenge to want to do like a better time. And luckily, both times I've been able to get a PR. So that's been also like really, really cool. And yeah, I like that.
I know you usually qualify pretty early for the next year. Have you already qualified for 2025 age group nationals?
I don't know. I podium at Waterman, but that's not a state championship. So I don't know. But I think sometimes it's also a bit like if you participated at nationals and based on your time, you might also get a chance to go again.
Yeah.
So if I get the opportunity, then yes, I'll definitely want to go next year.
Okay. All righty.
Where's nationals next year?
Do you know?
No,
Okay.
I've heard some things, but I don't know.
Mm, very interesting. Yeah.
We will have to find out when it's released. No,
Mm.
that's for real.
Yeah. But
That's for real.
before that, we're both doing like a long swim in May,
Okay.
Okay.
then in Tulum. And so they'll be,
Cancun.
in Cancun, you're right, in Cancun. So they'll be kind of like our like next challenge for next year.
Oh, that's your marathon swim.
Yeah.
Well, why didn't you say something? Like, I thought you were going to do the marathon swim in the Chesapeake. And I'm like, oh, I do not swim in the Chesapeake anymore. But wow, that's going to be nice.
Yeah. Yeah, because it's nice water. Like it's also like the ocean, but like clear water. It's gonna be warm. You get to see like the fish and
Fish and
stuff.
sea life. All
So
right. Okay. Well, y'all, thank y'all so much for being on the podcast. This has been really great. And I hope it's been equally great for those of you who are listening and you've learned something. But you know, we don't let people go without a little bit of rapid fire. So here we go. Okay. Morning or evening workouts?
morning.
Morning.
Swim in a pool or open water?
Cool.
I don't like the open water. Yeah.
Okay. Favorite running shoe brand?
Okay.
Saucony.
Mhm. Best recovery tool method?
I think the foam roller.
Yeah. Maybe those big giant rubber bands, you know, those.
Oh, like the stretch bands to for modality?
Yeah, like TheraBands, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Favorite motivational quote or mantra?
Mm.
Hmm.
I think for me would be I think from Maya Angelou that says something like, I mean, I know it by heart, but something like people will forget what you say and what you do, but people will never forget how you make them feel. And I think that's
Good.
so true.
That's a very nice quote. Is it?
Did I cheat it? No.
Does it motivate you?
It does. I'm a social worker. I want to make people feel good.
I'm just trying to buy time because I can't really think of a quote.
Well, you have a mantra. What's your mantra that you say to yourself?
A mantra? Does everyone have a mantra? Man, I'm missing out on the mantra game. I don't know if I have one.
Beat the crowds.
Yes, yeah. If you're early, you get your own lane at the pool. You know?
That's real, especially at the gym that we go to, because lanes are very precious.
Yeah.
What would be your number one tip for a beginner?
I think to enjoy it, like just to enjoy the process and because it's not about necessarily like, well, it depends for each person, right? But like if I think it's just about enjoying it and not necessarily like you might have a time in mind, but you never know on race day like what is going to happen, or like each course is different, each race is different. And so like sometimes you might go with a goal, but like in the moment you just have to like roll with it and enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Patrick?
I think I guess I would say like it's people might overestimate how much training they need to do for a triathlon because it's three sports, and I think a lot of people think of the Ironman when they think of triathlon, and you have to do so many workouts per week, but the training all builds on itself. So, every run will help you on the bike, and every bike will help you on the run, and so as long as you're out there doing something like a few times a week or hopefully several times a week, like it's enough to go out there and have fun and complete one.
There it is. The last question I'll ask, but I know it's probably not the case. So I'm going to ask it in two different ways. Do you pee on the bike or get off and take a proper pee break?
There's sprints, like you pee before you start.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought. So do you pee in your wetsuit?
I have.
I haven't had to face that dilemma yet.
I don't use a wetsuit though, or well, if it's too cold, yes. But I try to avoid using the wetsuit because it takes me forever to get out of my wetsuit. So I try to avoid it. But I do pee in the water. Yeah, on my dry suit.
Yeah.
In your dry suit. Okay. Well, Patrick's like, I'm not there yet. Not just yet.
Not opposed.
Yeah.
Open water,
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you all so much again for being on the show. It's been a pleasure and a joy to have you guys. We have the saying that whenever you try beginners luck, you always win, and you truly do. And I think you've heard it here and seen it here, that just get out there and try, move, build. You don't have to have a plan to try. You just have to have the will to want to try, and everything else will work itself out. With that said, share with a friend, like, comment, let us know how we're doing. Let us know if you like the episode. And yeah, that's all we want you to do. No, I'm just kidding. I think I lost my train of thought. I was like, well, what? So in that case, it's time to go. My name is Mashonda Miles, also known as Mashonda Shines, and we are out. Peace. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Mashonda.
Thank you for tuning in and listening to this episode. We need your help so we can continue to try at TBL. So for more information on where you can find and subscribe to this podcast, visit www.trybeginnersluck.com. And don't forget, whenever you try beginner's luck, you always win.